You've picked the year you'll finally stop working. Maybe you've even circled a rough date on the calendar, and I'm proud of you for that, genuinely. But here's what nobody in your life has told you yet, and what I'm going to sit down and explain to you today like a good neighbor should. The month you walk into that WPA office, or the month you make that first online claim, could quietly cost you thousands of pounds, not because you did anything wrong, not because the system is trying to catch you out, but simply because the timing of when benefits start, when your employment income ends, and when the assessment periods land on the calendar, all of that talks to each other in ways that most people never get explained to them, and the gap between getting it right and getting it wrong is not small. I've seen real people, hard-working people, leave over £8,000 to £11,000 on the table simply because they claimed 1 month too early or 1 month too late, and almost none of them ever found out it happened. Now, before we go a single step further, I want you to take a breath and hear this. If you have never once thought about the timing of your WPA claim, you are completely normal. Most people claim benefits when life tells them to, when a job ends, when health deteriorates, when a partner passes, when the rent suddenly feels impossible. Nobody sits us down and teaches us that the calendar itself is a financial decision. Nobody explains that the week your claim lands, the month your income stops, and the point you are in your state pension journey all quietly shape how much money ends up in your pocket. So today I'm going to be the person who finally explains it. And if this is already making you look at your calendar a little differently, do me one small favor right now. Go ahead and tap that like button and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps me get this information in front of more people across the UK who are about to make this exact decision without all the facts. That's all I'll ask. Now let's get back to your money. Here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to show you the handful of levers you actually control when it comes to WPA benefits. And I want you to notice that not one of them is the economy, not one of them is what the government decides to do next year, and not one of them requires you to be a benefits expert. These are things sitting right there in your own situation, your own employment end date, your savings, your household income, your state pension age, and the assessment periods that WPA uses internally to calculate what you're owed. Get those lined up right, and you could start this next chapter of your life with hundreds or even thousands of pounds more in your pocket every single year. Get them wrong and you hand away money you were fully entitled to, money that was there waiting for you, and you simply missed the window. Let's start with the one that trips people up more than almost anything else, and that is universal credit's assessment periods. Now, most people assume that when they stop working and make a claim, WPA looks at their whole financial picture and pays them accordingly. But that is not how it works. Universal credit divides your life into monthly assessment periods. Each one runs for exactly 1 calendar month, and your payment is calculated based entirely on what income, earnings, and circumstances WPA can see inside that specific window. Here is where it gets important. The day you make your first claim becomes the anchor for every single assessment period you will ever have on universal credit. It locks in permanently. So if you start your claim on the 18th of a month, your assessment period will always run from the 18th to the 17th of the following month, every single month, for as long as you are claiming, and that anchor date talks directly to when your final payslip from work gets reported, when your employer sends earnings information to C, and whether that income lands inside your first assessment period or not. If your final month's wages and your first universal credit assessment period overlap in the wrong way, WPA sees your income and reduces your payment substantially for that first month, sometimes wiping it out entirely. But your rent still needs paying, your bills didn't get the memo, and if you were counting on that first payment to bridge the gap, you can find yourself in a very difficult position before you've even found your footing. The fix is not complicated, but it does require planning before you make your claim. Find out exactly when your employer sends their payroll data to C. Then think carefully about whether starting your claim a few days earlier or a few days later would push that final payslip into a different assessment period entirely. One phone call to your employer's payroll team and a conversation with a benefits advisor could genuinely save you a month's full payment. Then there is the 5-week wait, and this is something I want you to really sit with for a moment. When you first claim universal credit, WPA does not pay you straight away. There is a built-in waiting period of approximately 5 weeks before your first payment arrives. That is not a mistake, it is not a backlog, it is the design of the system. And for people who have just left work and are managing on savings or on a final payslip, 5 weeks can feel like a very long time. The timing of when you claim directly affects how much money you need to have set aside to survive that gap comfortably. If you claim in a month where your rent falls due twice within that Waiting period, where a big household bill lands, where your car insurance renews, that 5-week stretch gets significantly harder. But if you time your claim so that your final payslip carries you cleanly through the wait and your first UC payment arrives just as that income runs out, you cross the bridge without a gap underneath. Again, this sounds like a small thing, but for people on tight margins, and I know many of you watching are managing very carefully right now, the difference between a smooth crossing and a scrambled one can mean debt, stress, and decisions you did not want to be making. Now let me talk about something that the big government websites almost never explain clearly, and that is the interaction between your savings, your redundancy payment, and your benefit entitlement. And I want you to hear this carefully because it catches an enormous number of people completely off guard. Universal credit has a capital limit. If you have more than £16,000 in savings, including money in current accounts, ISAs, and most investments, you are not entitled to universal credit at all. If you have between £6,000 and £16,000, WPA assumes you are generating fictional income from those savings, what they call tariff income, and they reduce your payment accordingly. Here is the timing trap that matters. If you are made redundant and you receive a lump sum payment, whether that's statutory redundancy, a settlement agreement, or a final bonus, that money lands in your bank account and immediately affects your capital position. So if your redundancy pay pushes you above £16,000, even temporarily, and you make your claim in that same month, WPA will see the elevated balance and could disqualify you entirely. But if you allow that balance to reduce, whether through paying down existing debt, covering genuine living costs, or making legitimate planned purchases you were already intending to make, your capital picture in a subsequent month may look very different. I want to be absolutely clear here. I am not suggesting for one moment that you do anything improper. WPA takes financial misconduct extremely seriously, but legitimate financial planning around genuine needs and honest timing is not misconduct. It is sense. And a qualified benefits advisor can help you understand exactly where the line is. Let's talk about the piece that matters enormously for those of you approaching state pension age, because this is where the calendar becomes almost like a different language, and I promise this next part changes how you think about the whole decision. Your state pension age in the UK is currently 66 for both men and women, but here's what most people don't realize. The month you reach state pension age does not mean your pension starts automatically. You have to claim it. And the date you claim it, not the date you reach pension age, is what determines when your payments begin. If you delay claiming your state pension beyond your pension age, your entitlement grows. For every 9 weeks you defer, your state pension increases by 1%. That works out to just under 5.8% for every full year you hold off. For someone on the full new state pension of around £221 a week in 2026, deferring for a full year adds roughly £12 a week to your pension permanently every week for the rest of your life. Now, for some people, particularly those in good health who expect to live well into their 80s, that calculation strongly favors waiting. But for others, particularly those with health concerns, high immediate income needs, or a surviving partner who won't inherit the deferral uplift, claiming promptly at pension age or even slightly before makes more sense. The point is that the month you claim is not a formality. It is a financial decision that compounds across potentially 15 or 20 years of retirement, and it needs to be made on purpose, not by default. And while we're on state pension, I need to tell you about something that is brand new for right now in 2026, because it changes the maths for a lot of people watching. If you have gaps in your national insurance record, either because you took time out to care for family, because you worked abroad, because you were self-employed, during periods when contributions were inconsistent, or simply because of the way your working life went, you may be entitled to buy back missing years to boost your state pension. Hummer-C and WPA have an online service that allows you to see your NI record and identify gaps going back many years. But, and this is the timing point I want, U2 lock-in, the ability to fill certain gaps has deadlines. For some historical gaps, the window to pay voluntary contributions closes permanently at a specific date. If you miss it, the option is gone. I have spoken to people who found out about this 6 months too late and were genuinely heartbroken. So if you are within 10 years of state pension age and you have not checked your NI record recently, do it this week, not next month. This week, it could be worth thousands of pounds in additional state pension income for the rest of your life. Now let me come to the piece that trips up more people than almost any other, and that is the interaction between pension credit and the month your circumstances change. Pension credit is one of the most underclaimed benefits in the entire UK system. Millions of pounds go uncollected every single year by pensioners who are fully entitled. to it but simply don't know it exists, don't think it applies to them, or assume the process is too complicated. Pension credit tops up your weekly income if you are over state pension age and your income falls below approximately £218 a week for a single person or £332 for a couple in 2026. But here is the timing. Dimension that almost nobody talks about: pension credit can be backdated, but only for 3 months. If your circumstances change, if your income drops, if your partner passes away, if you stop receiving a private pension and you do not claim pension credit promptly, you lose that backdating window. Every month you delay claiming is a month of entitlement that simply disappears. And pension credit is not just the weekly top-up payment itself. It is the gateway to a cascade of other help, including housing benefit, council tax reduction, a free TV license if you are 75 or over, old weather payments, and in some cases NHS dental treatment and glasses. Missing pension credit for even 6 months because you didn't know to claim promptly. That is not a small oversight that can represent thousands of pounds in combined benefit across that period. Take a breath here, because I know that is already a lot to hold in your head at once. Let me ask you something honestly. Do you actually know the date your state pension age falls? Not roughly, not in that general year, the actual month. Because every single thing I'm describing today, the UC assessment periods, the deferral calculation, the pension credit backdating window, all of it pivots around that specific month. And if you don't know it with certainty, you are essentially trying to plan a journey without knowing your starting point, the DWP state pension forecast. Tool and the government's Check Your State Pension page on gov.uk let you see your exact pension age, your current entitlement, and your projected NI record. I've linked to the key resources in the description below. 10 minutes on that page this week is genuinely worth more than hours of reading general advice articles. Let me also talk about something that catches people who are still working part-time while claiming benefits, because the timing issue here is different but equally important. If you are on universal credit and you start working, or if your earnings change, the way WPRA counts those earnings against your entitlement is based on what your employer reports through real-time information, the RT system linked to Hummer C. Your employer reports your pay to Hummer C on or around the date they pay you. WPRA then picks up that report and counts it against whichever UC assessment period it falls into. Here is the trap. If you are paid monthly and you're paid 8 shifts, even by a single day, perhaps because a normal pay date fell on a bank holiday and your employer paid you a day early, that can mean 2 months' worth of earnings appear inside one assessment period. WPRA counts both. Your payment can drop dramatically that month and then recover the following month. But in the short term, you face exactly the same bills with substantially less money. The fix is to watch your pay dates carefully. Flag any shifts to a benefits advisor well in advance. And if your employer offers any flexibility on pay dates, understand what that means for your UC before you agree to it. Now let's bring it home with the decisions around housing benefit, council tax reduction, and attendance allowance, because for people over state pension age, these can be transformative, and the month matters here too. Housing benefit for people over pension age is still administered by local councils in England and Wales rather than through universal credit, and the date you claim housing benefit, the date your tenancy agreement runs from, and the date WPRA confirms your pension credit entitlement can all interact in ways that either create gaps in your cover or waste weeks of entitlement. Similarly, council tax reduction schemes vary by local authority, and many of them require you to claim within a specific period of a change in circumstances. Delay the claim and you cannot recover the lost weeks. Attendance allowance, the benefit for people over 65 who need help due to illness or disability, is not means tested and does not depend on your NI record, but it is also not automatic. And Because it takes time to process, claiming promptly when health needs arise rather than waiting until things become very difficult means you receive the support sooner and build an earlier entitlement date into your record. For many families, attendance allowance is the trigger that unlocks carer's allowance for a family member who is providing care, and carer's allowance itself has its own timing implications for national insurance credits and future pension entitlement. It is all connected, just as with the tax and Medicare picture in the US, every decision ripples into the next one. So let me make it simple, because you deserve a clear answer and not just a pile of rules. For most people approaching this decision, the cleanest strategy looks something like this. Check your NI record and your state pension forecast this week, not when you get around to it this week. Find out exactly when your employer reports. Your pay to Hummer C before you decide on your UC claim start date. If you are carrying significant savings or expect a lump sum, take advice before you claim so that your capital picture is honest, planned, and properly understood. If you are at or near state pension age, request a pension credit claim form from DWP even if you are not certain you qualify, because the backdating window is short and the downside of claiming unnecessarily is zero. And if your health has declined, or if you are caring for someone whose health has declined, look at attendance allowance and carer's allowance now, not later, because earlier entitlement dates mean more money over time. The right month to claim is the one where your income timing, your savings position, your assessment period anchor date, and your wider entitlement picture all line up in your favor, and now you know what those levers are. So here is what I want you to actually do this week. Write down for things: the exact date your state pension age falls, the date your employer reports your payroll to Hummer C, your current savings balance and whether any lump sums are expected, and the date your current health insurance, tenancy agreement, or other key financial arrangements renew. Then go to gov.uk and check your state pension forecast and your NI record. And if any of what we've covered today suggests your timing might need adjusting, book a free appointment with Citizens Advice or with a local welfare rights advisor before you make the claim. That one conversation, like that one phone call to HR, is worth more than almost anything else you could do this week. Now, I want to be honest with you, the way a good neighbor should be. Everything I've shared today is for education, to help you ask smarter questions and walk into your WPRA conversations better prepared. It is not legal or financial advice. Your situation is your own, so before you lock in a date, get proper personalized guidance from a qualified professional or a regulated benefits advisor who knows the details of your specific circumstances. But here is the one thing I want you to carry out of today's conversation. You cannot control what WPRA decides to change next year, and you will drive yourself half crazy trying to second guess it. But you can absolutely control the month you claim, and that single choice quietly steers your assessment period income, your pension credit, entitlement, your state pension deferral value, your housing benefit start date, and the cascade of passported benefits that can follow. It is one of the most powerful decisions you will make in this chapter of your life, and it is completely in your hands, so don't rush it. Don't let a random difficult Tuesday make a decision that shapes the next 10 or 15 years for you. Pick your month on purpose, because that is how we do this around here, friend, one smart decision at a time.